Greetings. Hey there, golf addicts. Your fantasy golf sommelier is back again for another week. We're forgetting about last week, the Players' Championship. I really don't care what happened that week. But this week, it's the Honda Classic, and I am here to provide you with some wine knowledge and perhaps some great, fantastic plays. We'll see about that. First off, let's talk about what I'm drinking. And now, this is a very delicious cab. I've kind of been on the cabs lately. And this one is called Three Finger Jack. Now, let me tell you something about this cab. It is very good. It's kind of a hot new cab out there when you talk about the region that it's from in California, in Lodi, California, which is sort of the east side ridge of the Sierra Mountains. And I say that for a reason because one of the things I'm going to talk about, actually, the thing I'm going to talk about, not one of the things, is wine labels. Okay. And what you can learn from a wine label when you're in the grocery store or that fine wine store that you go to. Reading a label is important. So we're going to talk about that. But before we get into sort of the initial steps of label reading, let's start with the plays of the week. And as always, we're going to go with, yes, the price like a Sutter home, plays like a Camus, play of the week. And for me, that is Wesley Bryan. Now, look, I know what you're thinking. Wesley Bryan, is he even on the PGA Tour right now? Well, yeah, he is actually. He's playing on a major medical exemption. He's actually got 5 starts left after this one. And I think he's just kind of picking his spots. And he's only playing where he feels comfortable, where he's played well in the past. And he's had a 4th place finish here. Back, I believe it was in 2017 when he was kind of, playing well and winning golf tournaments. Well, one golf tournament in Hilton Head. But look, here's the thing. He's comfortable here. I like that. He is a great ball striker. He's good on approach. He's top 15 in the field on both of those stats when you look at his last 12 rounds on tour. So that's good. That's what I'm looking for. Ball strikers, strokes gained approach. I think he's going to be extremely low owned. Not a whole lot of people are going to be on Wesley Bryan. So if you want to play him in tournaments as kind of that flyer play, I like him at 6,800. So I'm going to give him 88 points this week as my pop the cork play. Okay, let's talk about labels a little bit. Now, the 3 Finger Jack here is an interesting label, okay? Because one, it gives you a lot of information. Not only does it say the name, the producer, which is 3 Finger Jack and that winery, but it tells you it's from the East Side Ridge. From the East Side. Oh yeah, the East Side Ridge. Anyway, so it's a cab, okay? So that is when you see cab or Malo or whatever, what they're telling you there is that's the variety. Okay, that's called the variety. Okay, cab, Merlot, Pinot Noir. That's the grape basically that we're talking about. And then we also always have, like I mentioned, East Side. That's the region. That's the region we're talking about here in California. You see that like if we're in Napa or whatever. You're in France in the Bordeaux region or something or whatever. So you want to look at that region. Okay. I got a few other things that I'm going to talk about here when it comes to the label, namely the alcohol content, which is always important. But before we talk about that, let's get into the Boone's Farm fade of the week. Now, this has been a fire play lately. Actually, it hasn't. But we're still going to give it to you anyway. And for this week, I'm going with Brendan Steele. Okay, Brendan Steele. This is a crap field, okay, for the Honda. Unfortunately, it's a crap field. He's at 8,700. A lot of people are going to play Brendan Steele. As a matter of fact, I think he's projected as like the 3rd or 4th highest owned player in GPPs this week. Okay. I don't want to do that. I just don't. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not playing Brendan Steele at 20+% ownership. I don't care if he's been in decent form and the price is okay at 8,700. He certainly checks some boxes. Now, look, I will say this. He's 64th in the field in strokes gained approach. And historically, he doesn't really putt all that well on Bermuda grass. So look, if you want to play Brendan Steele, I'm fine with that. Okay. If you want to suffer through looking at Brendan Steele in your lineup and watching him on your app with his swing and everything, that's fine. You can do that. You can play Brendan Steele. Okay. Don't come back and hate me next week if he wins. Okay. Because that's what happened last week. I picked the guy that won, but I'm still going to fade him anyway. I don't like him at that ownership. There's plenty of other guys you can pivot off of from Brendan Steele. Okay. I mean, it's just that type of tournament. So I'm going to give Brendan 82 points. Now, typically I would give the fade of the week probably like in the 70s somewhere, but I'm not really that confident about this one, so I'm going to give him 82 points. All right, let's talk some more about the label. Okay, Three Finger Jack, by the way, they give you a good description on the back. So let me tell you about this. He was apparently some guy who was in the gold rush, and he was searching for some riches, and he was quite the character. Okay, he was quite the character. And I think we're searching for riches this week, right, with our DFS lineup. So that's another reason that I chose this. But it's going to give you the alcohol content, which in this case is 15% alcohol by volume. Okay, that's pretty good. I like that. I like 15%. It tells you that it's 750 milliliters. Also on the front, you get the vintage. Okay, the vintage is the year 2018 is what we're talking about this week, or what we're talking about here with this label, 2018. So a lot of times when people think vintage, that's old. Like vintage, you feel like that's like an old man, a vintage man or something, or an old timey car. It's a vintage car. But that's not really the case with wine. It's really just the year, okay? It could be 10 years old, it could be 2 years old. In this case, it's 3 years old. It's a 2018 vintage, okay? But it does give you an idea of, sort of how long that wine has aged and been in that aging process, which is important when we're looking at picking a wine. So those are the things that we're going to look at when we look at a label. We're looking at the variety, we're looking at the vintage, we're looking at, who the producer is. We're looking at the alcohol content. That's very important. I don't think I've left anything out. There are a few other things that wine companies will put in there, like reserve. They'll put reserve on the label. Okay. Apparently the power was just going out when I said reserve. Apparently the wine people out there don't like me telling you this, but that really is a bunch of BS. Okay. If they put reserve on there, for the most part, they're probably just wanting you to buy it, and it's really not like a reserve. Okay. So let's not get fooled by that. All right. So let's get into the pop the cork play of the week. And I'm going to go with Ryan Moore. Now, that's kind of boring. All right. And he's hasn't been like in contention or anything lately, but you're getting him at 7,300. He's been solid, making cuts, has having some good finishes. And you know what? This is a perfect course fit for him. He is a ball striking machine, checks the box in bogey avoidance. He's also a great driver of the golf ball, and he's number one in the field in driving accuracy. That's important when there's water all over the place and trouble that you can get in. And I mentioned bogey avoidance. Okay. So he's not getting himself in a ton of trouble. He's just, methodically getting himself around a course, which you have to do here. Okay. You're not going to score a ton here. That's just it is what it is. Okay. You got to be consistent. You can't get into trouble. Just make a par. And then when you get opportunities to make birdies, you got to convert. I think he can do that this week. I think he's got a ton of upside at 7,300. So Ryan Moore is going to be the pop the cork play of the week. I'm giving him 90 points. So there you go. That's all I got. I gave you some picks. I talked about some labels. That's all I really got. Now I'm going to finish my wine. I think this is the first time I've actually had a sip during this whole entire episode of the Fantasy Golf Sommelier. So you know what that means? We're going to have to finish it right now. Okay, 2 sips. Boom. See you next week.